who's on your screen with the comic book scene. No one but Dan Shaheen.
Oh, hello, the world. Welcome back to the $1 Million Mailbox. I'm your old pal, Dan Shaheen. Today we've got a very special, extra special return guest, but first time participant in this thing that we call the $1 Million Mailbox. You know, I'm not talking about Larry. We've got Larry, of course, but we've got a guy who is honestly was what I consider my first big get as a guest on this show. He's a guy that, to me, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but if he were as well known and as popular and as well embraced as I feel like he should be, then I would not be able to get him on the show. So in a way, I'm sort of happy. I don't know. Of course, I'm talking about none other than the great, notorious ERB, Eliot R Brown, creator of the Punisher Armory, as well as all those, the official cartographer of Gotham City, and probably best known for his technical renderings in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. We've talked to him about all that stuff, but we're definitely going to talk to him more about all that stuff. Plus, one thing you may not have known is he was at one time the official submissions editor at Marvel Comics, and he's got more than a couple of stories to tell about that experience. So we're going to bring him in, and we're going to do something that we do a lot on this show. We're going to think really hard about comics. So let me bring in our good pal. You know him as Captain Fun. Let's bring in Larry Young. Hey, Larry. Hey, welcome.
Hey,
welcome
Dan.
back.
Oh, my God. I'm so excited today. Yeah, I can't tell you. Eliot Brown, when I was a super fan as a kid, like 10, 12, 15 years old, he made me realize that comics was a job you could have. It wasn't just some cool thing that happened from the Keebler Elves or something. It was like, I didn't really understand, writing and drawing as a boy, but I understand. My dad had blueprints and stuff everywhere. So I'm like, wow, a schematic of the Batmobile. Okay. Here's the blueprints of Avengers Mansion. Like, that was the stuff that I loved almost more than the comics themselves. So I'm not going to say anything today. I'm just going to sit and listen and pretend like this is an Eliot Brown masterclass, because that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I've had 2 long interviews with the guy before, and so I got to scratch my big Eliot R Brown itches. Like, we had a whole show focused on the Punisher Armory, a book that not a lot of people have read and might never be reprinted. Right. One of the few things that we might never see in graphic novel collected form. I pray that we do. And just today, even, I reached out to a couple of major comics publishers to feel around, who's going to publish the definitive Eliot R Brown book.
What a great idea.
It's got to be there. So just so I can have it, just so I can buy it and have it. It would almost be like that. I picture it like that Toth book, the one that has all his Hanna-Barbera drawings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Zorro.
Give me all of the great ERB renderings and a little bit of commentary by him and a tasteful production. And just shut up and take my money, right?
Yeah. The other thing I'm really looking forward to is Sam's book. Because a week or 2 ago, he friended me on Facebook and has been all over my Facebook. And today posted, before I could even do it, he's like, hey, talk to Dan and Larry. They got Eliot Brown coming. They might review my book. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. That's how you do it.
Talking about Sam.
Yeah.
Sam J. Royale,
so
who sent me a couple of fantastic. He's actually related. He's in 2 different submissions today.
Right.
Thematically linked. So, but anyway, here we are. We're jawboning, me and Jan and Larry, the same as always. And it's like, get to the special guest. So let's bring in the specialist of special guests. He's a specialist. Welcome back to the show, Eliot R Brown.
Thank you very much, both of you. And Larry, I must insist that if you need to say something, please feel free to interrupt. I mean, really,
okay,
Dan,
I will.
Inviting me back.
You're always welcome, Eliot. And Larry, you definitely have to pipe up, because who knows? I might just step out. I might step out for a smoke break or something. It could happen. You never know.
I'm kind of joking. It's all I can do, not just slobber all over.
Oh, come on. I got some new prints. I'll send Dan a bunch. He can forward everything. That's fine.
All right. Awesome.
Well,
I've done nothing bad, finally.
like we talked so much about your work at Marvel, your work at DC, and also like how much of your work has been I've said swiped, but let's just say appropriated, used legally.
Yeah, just used, right? Yeah.
Like influence, if the influence is almost too great to notice. But like Larry and I both said, like if it was me, I'd be a little bummed that like when I didn't get a call out or a credit for that. Elliot, give us the real deal. How do you feel?
6-point type. It's way in the back. Special thanks to 50 people in there. I'm in there somewhere. That's what I can. I mean, a nice crisp check would be okay, but or whatever, a Venmo connection. But it's all as I have pointed out. It's we went in, we signed we signed away our rights when we signed the voucher. That has to be good enough for all time, which is okay. It's okay.
It's interesting. You said like back then in the 70s, there was a fight for creators' rights and everything else. And of all the people to say like, hey, I don't feel like I was cheated besides yourself, it was like Steve Ditko, the guy who had the most to gain for trying to claw back some of those rights. He had a very principled stance on it. It seems like you do too.
I don't know how principled I am. It's more like it's fatalistic realizations of what's out there. It's a mixed bag of feelings because sure, would I like more money? Yes. Would I like more money back then? Sure. Yeah, but I was paid okay. I've got to admit, I did okay. The each Punisher Armory book, the one thing that made the Armory books better for a guy like me as a regular, I'm a lucky regular creator guy, was that I got a special writing rate for writing techno stuff. I think it was $85 a page or something like that, which is not bad. And there were 32 pages, no ads. So I had a 32 page rate payout for that. It was about $6,000, which I can tell you guys now that was enough money coming in to get me in trouble to leave New York City, go upstate, buy a house like an idiot.
That's great.
No, it was a nightmare. But
well, what's interesting though is that you were sort of like you started as like, I don't know if they call it this in comics, they do in sort of Hollywood, below the line employee. Like you were sort of like behind the scenes, you were editorial, you were special projects, Elliot. You were like
I was the guy they call when somebody threw up an editorial. I was the stat camera guy.
Yes.
And
so for a guy like you to get away, not only to have a chance to scratch your creative itch as an artist, as a technical artist, par excellence, still have yet to be equaled, let alone surpassed as like a renderer of comic book technology.
Nobody else has tried. I'm sure there's better guys out there.
There's not. I've looked. I'm looking.
Like anybody trying it now would be using computer assisted design. And
Bingo.
The charm of your stuff is that you could tell a guy was sitting at a table figuring it out. And I just love that.
You're right.
It took major chops, like that Baxter Building stuff that you did, or the Four Freedoms Plaza, one of those. Yeah. You talked to me briefly. Could you tell Larry about the rig that you used to get the perspective?
Oh yeah. There's perspective is very complicated. There's like a dozen different ways to go about it. There's the proper way where you can control all the variables. That's a pain in the ass. It is so much easier to work on a proportional method. The secret to good perspective is super long vanishing points, very far away. In the real world, that's hard to actually accomplish. Here's how you do it. I wish I had. Here, all right, hold on. Whoa, look out! Oh, okay. Oh, your mother! Oh, help!
This is my favorite part of $1 Million Mailbox.
Okay. So
everybody, show your pants.
Larry, can you imagine just from what we're seeing in the background what it's like to be in like Eliot R Brown's secret lair?
I assume it's the Batcave.
Yeah.
This has been called the Unterbunker by my dear friends. I blasted. I had it here just a little while ago. Oh, there it is.
While Elliot's setting up here for a second, I just want to tell everybody out there that if you want to see your comics on this show, there is one place that you can send them to the $1 Million Mailbox, P.O. Box 1163, Arcata, California, 95518. Send them here. We'll put them on the can. We'll spread them out, as you will see shortly. Now, back to the show.
All right. So you start with a sketch. Now, you just sort of have to know what you want to see. And I spend a lot of time drawing loose, sloppy concepts to make sure I see down into the project, or that I'll get each. In the case of the Baxter Building, I actually started a drawing. I didn't like that I couldn't see far enough into the bottom floors, so I changed everything. That was a big pain in the neck. And then what you do is, I took okay, this is a piece of illustration board, and I carve out a hunk, and this is 88.5 inches radius of a circle. I took a piece of string and I tacked it down in the floor, and I drew the arc carefully by hand with a pencil on the end of a string, and then I cut it out carefully. And this is a T-square that I made. You can use any T-square you want, but I've had this one for a long time because it's just the right size. I don't have a drafting table anymore, so I have a little board, a lap board. And this is what you do. Let's see if I can. Where am I? Okay. And you find your guidelines at the top of the page and the bottom of the page, and you sort of figure out where this is supposed to be. And it all makes sense when the drawing's in front of you. And then you can. Okay, let's see if I can do it. Okay. Here it goes. Okay. Okay. And you can see the perspective
slightly.
It's so exactly because it's 7 feet away.
Yeah.
I did it in 3 ways, which is a big pain in the neck, but I did it. It took up a lot of my so-called lap board. Anyway, that's the easy way. There's a couple of silly ways that are, you need a real drafting board. See, because you get little arcs, you get short segments that are the size of your T-square head, and you put the one in the middle at the horizon. Then you figure out your bottom line, and you put it right there. You start with the last one. You tack it down, and then you can go up, and you go ba-bink, ba-bang, ba-bang between the 3.
Yeah.
So you can do this forever.
I'm
a master renderer.
Say you're applying that to a building or something. How long does all that foundational work set up before you actually start drawing?
That was 2 or 3 days, especially.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing to me.
And then I stopped. I took the pages up, and I put new clean boards down because I didn't like what I saw.
Oh my God!
Wow,
that's
amazing.
Yeah. No, that was crazy. Well, the Baxter Building held a special place in my heart. As a kid, I was so intrigued that horrible little thing that probably Vinnie Coletta inked back in 1965, where they showed the rocket. I said, "Oh yeah, a rocket in Midtown. That makes sense, of course. Yeah." and the little tube on the bottom that directed all the flame away. Yeah, that's right. And I said, this is magic. This is where comic book magic is so special to a kid. Okay, I'm at a convention over the weekend, a little convention up in Albany, and there were kids. There was a 3-year-old kid who saw this kind of ordinary guy in a Spider-Man costume. He thought it was Spider-Man. His mind. So I look back at the whatever the hell I was, 12-year-old, 11-year-old, when I first saw these things. The buildings looked perfectly real to me. Whoever was drawing them at the time did a fine job, and they didn't show every appliance and stupid tabletop like I did, but they may have had a point because I spent hours and hours struggling away on that.
That's why I personally think you're a genius, because everybody enjoyed the other stuff and your brain kind of filled it in, but you put 100,000% more detail in, and then your brain filled in the other stuff that you wanted to see too. And it was just yellow brick road.
I believe I'm a compartmented genius, just a small genius in certain ways. I do have a 3-dimensional perception that seems to be better than most people's. but that's about it. That's about it. I think in 3D a lot.
Well, it was that ability to do those renderings in such a way, like it added a richness to those handbooks and a reality to them because of the research that you did. But just there's an ineffable quality because everybody, including guys in the comments right here, are like, if you're gonna try and do it, you're gonna reference the best. And I'm sorry, nobody, I don't know what it is. Even there's just something about the layout, the choice of margins and stuff in those handbooks. There's something about it that was just perfect that other later editions didn't really get. I can't put my finger on it. I wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
Marvel comes out of bankruptcy in 2007. I was very nice. They got in touch with me. They wanted me to do the Marvel Atlas. I said, "This is great. Oh, fabulous. How many? You want 20 pages? Okay, that's lovely. That's a good payday for me." And thank you, Tony. And they hooked me up with 5 or 6 different reference guys, maybe 10. There's a bunch of guys. A guy named Spider Mike, Mike Ficara or Fichera. I think it's Ficara. And a very nice guy. I got to meet him, and then a whole bunch of other guys on the internet, research guys, people just doing all this stuff. There's this one guy who was a Washington lawyer because he informed me he could see the Capitol outside of his office. Thanks, buddy. I'm not intimidated because you can't show me what I need to see. I realized that, let me throw the word genius around, that the guys we worked with back in the original Marvel Universe days were geniuses. Peter Sanderson, Mark Grunwald, they struggled to look through who knows how many books, certainly Peter, and they found one picture that I needed. I would sit in that office, I'd look at whatever the picture was, I'd say, "Do I need to know anything else?" And Peter would say, "Yes, you need to know such and such. 3 things here." And I write them down on the borders of the picture. And these guys, they couldn't show me anything. They showed me a thing about the Savage Land, which just infuriated me. They showed me like 15 different things, and they're all over the place. And I'm looking at this stuff, and it doesn't mean anything to me. Even when they have copious notes. All right, what this has to do with the modern look is that whoever in the office did this, they took the pages from the internet that had all this gobbledygook on it, all this backstory and history, and this guy did this here, and then he went on to do this there, and went on and on and on and on and on, page after page after page. They took it all, they burned it into a shape, and that's the shape they were stuck with. There were these huge margins on either side that they didn't tell me about, and there's a thing on top. So there's this little keyhole in the middle of, and then they just took it and printed it, however it fit. And then my stuff sort of, I didn't know what they were doing with it. And since I didn't know how to computer color back in those days, the office kids did it. Looks bad.
So would you say like then maybe the later editions was like a lack of cohesion between who was laying it out and who was doing the individual pieces? Or
we were okay. Sometimes I think back. I knew some of the old guys, Tartag, John Tartaglione, John Buscema, John Romita Sr., certainly, George Russo. So you see these guys, there was something magical about what they could do. They brought a thing to the job of making a comic book. Their simplest pencil lines were nearly effortless. Their brushstrokes, when they chose to even ink themselves, was also effortless. And you got a comic book, a recognizable comic book out of this. This is sort of what they could do. They could not only do all that, they could do it fast and without too much back and forth and jibber jabber. You got to be a special person to do that. I'm not that kind of person. I struggle to get stuff to look the way it does. I joke with my wife that I spend more time designing the page than I do executing the page. That was the Punisher Armory, because I want to show everything specifically, but I don't want to draw all the nuts and bolts over and over again. I did which of course hasn't happened. But I look at these guys. I look at these guys who are in the business now, and should they really be in this business? Maybe they should be in another advertising.
I'll tell you personally, the thing I responded to is that you're trying to give two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional object, which is sort of
that's
soulless.
The 3D junk. Yeah,
it's soulless by definition, right? You're doing something inorganic, but you can't remove your human soul from it, and that bleeds off. And like, I'm just such a giant fan of juxtaposition that those two things just make me so happy. It's like a warm cookie, man.
Because Larry, let me blow a little more smoke up there, Elliot, for a second, because it's not just the Machine Man's hand and Stilt Man's armor. It's like, here's Daredevil's brownstone. Here's Peter Parker's apartment, exactly where his bedroom is. It's a complete reality, to the point that role-playing games are seeking that stuff out and just taking it, licensing, and using it verbatim because it's perfect.
Yeah. One guy came to me and said, "How do I tell how big everything is?" I said, "The door swings at 31 inches. That's all. That's all you need. Everything else scales up from there."
Because you did that thinking, man. That's just that blows my mind even now as an adult.
When I was a kid, my best friend is still an architect.
That's great.
So I stay current. Okay, humanity. It's funny you mentioned humanity, because my wife and son make terrible fun of me. Now, I think I told you this story one time before, Dan. So I'm doing the Baxter Building. It was 10 days of 10 hours inking straight.
Oh, no.
Middle there, where I'm realizing, if I didn't quite do 10 hours on the first day, maybe I did 8, that I had to do 10 that day and 12 the next to make up for the time, because it was, I had to get the damn thing done. I'm doing Sue and Reed's bedroom, and on the table I decided to put a statue, as if it were a statue given to them by Alicia, the blind sculptress. And then I'm sitting there, and that's when my eyes could focus down to 2 inches, and I'm going, okay. And here's the Hulk. He's turning into the Hulk, the thing, the turning thing, and the guy's on fire, and he's horrified. But and I start crying.
And like, this is when this is
can't help yourself.
Like, you could have just crapped this out in a day, and it would have been published. And people would have been like, okay, sure, that's what I've come to expect from like a diagram of the Batcave or whatever. You know what I mean? I just somebody draws it and thinks, but nobody was putting that kind of attention and detail, let alone today, where if you put that number of hours into it with modern 3D tools, you would have like a completely realistic 3D rendering of.
That would be interesting, because I'm trying to crack 3D rendering. It's something else to do in my retirement. Yes.
Let's talk later, Elliot. Let's talk later.
Dan's got something to help you with, I bet.
Oh God. Well, I could use some help.
That graffiti tool that you did is excellent, Dan. I love that.
Well, thank you. Well, speaking of help, Elliot, the real reason, and I do want to, we're going to continue to talk to you about this stuff throughout this, but I would like to dive into the mailbox and start looking at comics and just talk them through, and because remind us again, you were a submissions editor at Marvel. That's an esteemed position at Marvel, as I understand.
No, dog in the manger. I no good. If anybody ever finds a copy of the tryout contest book, you look on the back cover, and right out there it says, "Send artwork to submissions editor, 387 Park Avenue South, New York."
Sounds legit.
It seems to me, maybe it's my childish, enthusiasm for the printed image, but if you put it on paper, it's real. And if you have something like send your story, send your script, send your artwork too, they printed, they stuck 4 blank pages of artboard in that thing. So send them in, draw on them and send them in. Well, I don't know if Jim was thinking straight when he figured that out. He actually mobilized the entire bullpen to jump to his marching orders, and that book was put together inside of 2 weeks. I kid
Wow.
you not, it was a nightmare of production. Janet Jackson, his old-fashioned gal pal from the good old days, we were very lucky. Janet is really talented, and she was no less talented back in the day. She's better now. That's a whole nother thing. She's a good kid. The only thing wrong with Janet is Jim. Okay. Anyway, we were very lucky that we got her. She was.
Well, that book is a stroke of genius, in my opinion, right down to the format.
Yes, I thought so too. Even if Jim stole it from people who really originated it, but that's a whole nother argument. But I've got thousands. I got box loads of these things. Okay, so here's I have the whole range. I've talked about the Maniac Files. I still have a couple. They're hilarious. These kids are so earnest, and they're so they're liberated by this invitation, and they show us what they've got, warts and all, misspellings, crazy thought processes. It's all.
Are you talking about this show, or are you talking about the okay.
Oh no, I'm talking about. Well, that's maybe what we changed into this particular show. But no, back then, so I get a flimsy shirt cardboard box full of paper. It's like a ream of paper box, and I'm looking at it and it's my son has autism, and he's always read comic books, and he's got a lot out of them, and he's written the story. And I'm looking at this thing. It's every other line is filled in with an almost illiterate scrawl of handwriting. He skips it, and it's on notepad stuffed in here. Got to be 300 sheets of paper. And I said, oh, boy, okay, well, how am I going to do this? So, whatever humanity I had, I looked through the first things. I said there was nothing there. The kid was rambling, and so I said, okay, two things happen here. First off, this is a kid and a devoted mother. That's very nice. This is an ill-considered devoted mother who thinks we're going to take it. What I did was I figured out the gist of the story, and I said, well, no, you shouldn't do this. You should introduce the character, blah, blah, blah. And I wrote back a letter saying, it's a little unfair to send me a whole thing like this and expect to, just go straight to production. I didn't say that, but I did say, you might want to review it yourself and turn it into something a bit more presentable, because it was very hard going to read that kid's handwriting. But what are you supposed to do? What are you going to do?
That's amazing. And that kid and that young boy was Rob Liefeld. So you folks out there, don't give up your dreams. Send your comics into the $1 Million Mail.
What's funny? What's funny is that the Jim Lee story, which came out recently. I sent a rejection letter to Jim Lee before the tryout contest book. Really,
I didn't know that.
It's become an internet meme, and Jim published the letter, which is on Marvel Stationery, and I looked at it and I said, "Oh, this is really good, kid. But look, you got to work on your hands. The hardest thing to do is your hands." And and you know what? I said on page 6, panel 4, I picked out the exact thing. Look at that hand and redraw it. And to his credit, actually, I ran into Jim at one of the cons, and
I bet he did.
Before, which I think this is what prompted it, because we hadn't laid eyes on each other, for 10 years, 15 years at that point. And he'd gone through all of his ups and downs. He's out of Wildstorm, and he's at DC, and he's doing whatever the hell he's doing, and he's a super, he made Bob Harris editor, and he's a vice president now, and he's got an East Coast office and a West Coast office. And there he is. He's standing there. Hey, Jim, how you doing? He remembered me. That surprised me.
Well, that's the thing. Those guys hold you in as high esteem as every pro I've ever talked to.
Absolutely.
Everyone who I've ever mentioned, Brian Michael Bendis is an Eliot R Brown fanatic.
And I'm sorry I make fun of his triple name. So okay, I'll try not to do that anymore. He's the only thing. Okay, Brian's a funny guy because he's the guy who took over Captain America after Grunwald. And Grunwald was devastated. Not that any one particular person took it over, that he had to leave. I said, Mark, you should have left. It's the appearance of giving yourself work, of the whole notion of creator, writer, editor business.
I agree with that.
Executive editor at the time. Even if it's not true, it's gonna look true. You gotta, I gotta write. Go off and write then. Don't take your own damn book. Also, look, Groening has been beatified. He's been elevated to sainthood. So it's hard to criticize him. But if you take a look at some of those camp books, they're a little self-indulgent.
That's exactly the word that comes to mind. It was a self-indulgent.
He had Steve Rogers as an artist, which is not bad. But then he had him go up to the Marvel offices, which is bad. I don't like stuff like that. That's just me. Sorry, Groovy. Sorry, buddy. He's here.
Okay, Elliot, I'm gonna dive us in here over to the place that we go.
Enough about me. Yeah, about me. I want to hear more about Larry. What the hell's Larry?
Well, I want the stories to keep coming, but we can definitely do
We're
it
on a mission from God.
here in the $1 Million Mailbox, right? Where we're doing our best. We're calling attention to indie comics over here. Okay, so let's do this, dude. And we're taking a look at the great stuff.
Let's start with Candy Tucker.
Randy Tucker Bomb Dude. So
find somebody who can do a logo for you, and don't do your own.
We've decided, by the way, in advance. By the way, Eliot R Brown is officially like the Simon Cowell of the $1 Million Mailbox. So we hired him and we said, bring the spice, please. Do what you did when you were at Marvel.
This represents somebody's blood, sweat, and tears, and maybe actual money. And I'm going to do the best job I can.
Well, this is a comic we've looked at before. Not this issue, but we've looked at Randy Tucker Bomb Dude from Tony Farrow at Rubber Wolf Comics. In fact, he sent me, good old Tony, besides a really fancy shiny sticker that's going to join the sticker wall. I got a Rubber Wolf button and the collection. I have both.
That's convention chow. That's no good.
Well, that's what I want them to send me for sure. So, like,
yeah, Dan, I've never said this, but I'm with Elliot. Like, you love that swag stuff that just is a pain in the ass to me personally.
I don't get out a lot, guys. I don't get to go places and get this stuff. I need it sent to me. So please don't discourage the swag. I got action figures sent to me. I've had alt-right manifestos sent to me. I've had everything sent to me at this place.
Too shiny.
Okay, so Randy Tucker Bomb Dude is a throwback kind of 80s comic. As you can see, all of the Rubber Wolf comics had homages to different trade dress of 80s comics. Can you sense the Kamiko origins that are on this one? This is like the Kamiko, late stage Kamiko or early stage Kamiko. Checks on the front. We've already seen all the issues that were composed of.
That's a trade paperback?
Yeah, this is a trade paper. This collects all the issues that Larry and I already looked at.
Okay.
This is Tony Farrow. Extremely, like, he's a big fan of 80s comics. Like, there is so much 80s-ness channeled into these things, right down to, like, I remember seeing this panel and I go, what is this? Why does this remind me? What does this remind me of? What does this remind me of? And I'm like, this is Sam and Max. And he's like, yes, Sam and Max is exactly like my biggest influence in life. I couldn't believe how like in tune I am with Tony Farrow.
Sam and Max was Steve Purcell, right?
Purcell.
Yeah.
The one of the all-time great humor, maybe the funniest humor 80s comic writer. He also wrote the Gumby Summer Fun Special, or was it the Winter Fun Special? Bob Burden wrote one. Steve Purcell wrote the other one. Steve Purcell was fun, and Art Adams drew it, and Steve Purcell's was the funniest. So we've seen the comics in this one before, so I'm not going to go through every page of that or anything, but I will take a look at Randy Tucker, and you will see, man, that this guy has got he's got a loving approach to like I know you don't like the Randy Tucker logo design, but he's really into logos and lettering and everything else. And I think he's trying to channeling an era that's pretty popular right now, to tell you the truth, to channel. I don't know.
The drug era. Yeah.
If he had just thickened up that line weights on it, it's more defensible. It's just hard to read that thin, you know?
Yeah.
It is a little bit on the cover. I agree with that. The composition is good, but maybe the line weight or just the thickness of the letters.
To use actual type from your computer and then print it out and on it to, what we call the roach chewed corners and do all of the fancy stuff and along.
That's what he does. That's one of Tony's techniques, actually, for his lettering.
And look at that. No, he does not.
On some of his books, not this book.
Okay.
He does not.
What I love the color palette of this book. I love the subject matter of this book. The dirtbag, white trash, Randy Tucker.
Nope, no white trash. No. We're not trying to be white trash. We're trying to be better. Color is supposed to separate the planes, not turn the background into mush. The color is supposed to advance the story, if you possibly can, with color. And red and blue are opposite ends of the wavelength, so your eye can't focus on one or the other without trying to go between the two. So that's why Superman is in primary colors. That's the trouble with Superman. You don't throw. I'm pointing at the screen. You don't put magenta and cyan on the same page because your eye can't focus on either one of them.
Okay, this is tips from the pros, kids. And this is Eliot talking though from an era, man. Color was really pretty crapola.
Yes, we did battle with
production technology. I mean, who were the people that, in your opinion, were able to like transcend those limits in the coloring technology of the time that really stood up?
Three separate. Neil Adams. Neil Adams was the first guy I ever saw who put an indication for airbrush in the artwork. I still don't believe it. He asked the separators to not just step up and do their job, but to do the most obscure aspect of their job. You doing an airbrush surprint is what it's called, where you actually you take the artwork, you turn it into a negative, and you pull it out of what's in front of the art of the coloring that's on the page already, and you can do all sorts of effects. It's fascinating, but I don't see any of that here. Okay, back a page. Nope, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in on this guy. Okay. Yeah. Now, monster guy on the right there with the nunchucks. Okay.
Yeah. This is our titular hero.
Okay. Now the design of the page is can't take away from that. I very much appreciate the panel borders being rectilinear, but that's just me. I'm very sticky about. We see the world. What are we looking at right here? Are we looking at keystone shapes and wobbly oogie boogie shapes? No, we're looking at rectangles. We see the world in rectangles. We watch TV on rectangles, and so stick to rectangles when you're drawing comic pages. Now, do we have stuff jumping out of the page? Why? What? Okay, the fist that's going over the panel 1. Why is that there? Well, I'll tell you why. Guy thinks he's jumping out of the page. It means he designed the page wrong. That's what it means. He should be the nunchucks coming off the page. Well, I want to see those nunchucks. You could have had the big one sticking off the side there, pointed right at you, and that would be just.
We're going to see nunchucks. We're going to see nunchucks.
Anything that takes me out of the scene. That pulls me back into the room. Why am I looking at this mess? The border is supposed to. Border is a border. Let's not make any money.
Sometimes panel pops and stuff like can be abused and when they're used like in the just the right moments, I think they add a lot. I think I really like stuff like this personally, especially in an action scene like this. I think this adds a lot of angular momentum to the scene.
If you don't know what a nunchuck is, you don't know what's happened to that thing, and the top of it's yellow and the background's yellow. You can barely tell it's there. Sorry.
coloring gripes for Tony. Tony, take it to heart, though. I know Tony is a pro and is always working in his iterating.
The best thing that Elliot said so far is that the color is supposed to delineate the planes, add a little illusion of depth. And so if that's not happening here, I think this art would be amazing in black and white. Just,
Nothing wrong with black and white. I like black and white.
the color
Which is funny because that's the books he is emulating here is from that black and white boom of the 80s. So like a lot of the texture and everything that he does, it probably would look really great in black and white as well. Maybe even better.
Image panel for sale. Back one page.
Why is it, go back, really. Why are the spine? Those two figures are back to back on the spine. It should be the other way around, facing in towards the story.
No. There shouldn't be a figure on the right page at all. He's now in front. Okay, Image went through paroxysms of art sales, and the guy started drawing pages that were meant for resale, not for printing, not for storytelling.
Yes.
Yeah. Than selling the damn artwork and getting maximum amounts of money. Now, I like the sound of that, but what's wrong with a regular old page? Now we have the violation of the reality of. I keep pointing at the screen. Sorry, everybody. You're flipping that guy flipping a coin and stepping. He's first off, he's off the page. Why can't I see more of him now? Why did we fail to draw the feet down there? Now he's walking on stumps and evaporated legs on the bottom. Why didn't he draw the head? Why he drew the head? He got the arm over the
Liefeld homage. Again, I think.
I don't think there's an homage. Once again, it's a sloppy
homage to Rob.
It's an incomplete panel design.
Some people find ankles too sexy, like the Victorian times. You know, it's like something that you should use.
And I love cats, so that's sweet. It's nice that you let your cat come in.
Yeah, that's Doodles. Sorry. Hey, man, Eliot Brown.
I really am drawn to the boldness of his storytelling. Like his comics are very readable to me, which is the biggest problem that I have with most comic submissions that I have. It's the it's the choices the artist makes in their storytelling, the panel to panel flow and compositions. That to me is the heart of what a good comic is, and to me that's where Tony is very strong. He's not choosing the flat camera angles and stuff. He's filling out the 3D space that we're in, and I'm understanding what's going on in the story.
But I'll wager the three of us grew up on television. Television, not 3D smell-o-vision. No, we're television. Right. We looked at storytelling told through a camera and presented on a box, and that you can draw a wacky angle on your page doesn't mean you should every time. The boom panel on the right there. What is served by having a crazy angle like that? A Dutch angle on the bottom. I don't get it. And what's wrong with you? What, did he lose his T-square that month? He can't do a nice rectangular panel up there. It doesn't take away from the gun. It doesn't. You can put all the action and the whoosh lines in the background behind that guy with the gun. You could do a neater border.
I can hear Tony right now. You can't fit me into your little box, man.
Yeah, well, that may be the answer, which is fine. And you know what? I'm old. I look at a certain thing and I see certain things. I think like. Why did you?
Okay, Elliot. Like our audience understands that this is just our opinion, and that these guys, the fact they've done the job, makes them have a thicker skin than most ordinary people, because they know what they did to get to this.
I'll be honest, man. Everybody is blowing smoke up these guys' butts in their who they're giving their work to, like me. Even I mean, I give legit criticism, but like they show it to their friends and family. Nobody is looking at it from a completely dispassionate, who's got the experience of producing and selling comics, and so we appreciate that you're being legit. Mm-hmm. ERB is nothing if not legit, folks. He's the real deal.
We got it.
Quit. That's me.
Okay, wait a minute. I got one for you here, Elliot. Here's a 9-page by the numbers.
On the 15th page. Yeah, he's summing up his storytelling.
By the numbers, we got a 9-panel Ditko grid ready for you.
Yeah. Steven, now
Um,
why couldn't you have done that earlier? See, here's the problem. Here's the problem as I see it. Why not exult in a fight scene? He showed us all the other moves with the gadgets before. What was wrong with showing more of those, of close-ups and telling the story in a more relaxed pace earlier? Now he's got 9 panels. Now he's got 5.
I'm going to add one more criticism. Would it have killed you, Tony, to have a backup page that had maybe a 2D rendering of the nunchucks, so we knew exactly how many links there were and exactly the angle? Would it have killed you?
It would have killed me. Yeah.
Oh, and then how about this on the back? Now, Tony is a master at homage.
Yes. Yeah. I'm amused. That's very funny. However,
this is effective. This is quality, right down to the gradient, the color choices, everything. I love this.
Let's see. Garbage Patch Kids, rubber garbage. Should have been rubber garbage kids. That's what it. Rubber Wolf Patch Kid. No, it should have been
Rubber
closer.
Wolf ? By the way, another Sam and Max homage. By the way, kids out there, I've got a line on maybe getting Steve Purcell in here with friend of the show Craig Yo to talk about the new Popeye book that they're both involved with. So watch this space.
Oh, good for them. I'm glad Popeye's still kicking.
Popeye's public domain.
Okay.
There's a lot of public domain Popeye.
Hold on. You know, it ain't easy drawing these either, but you got to try. That looks like a very large phallus and should not be, go get your pictures, go on the internet and look for pictures. It's easier to do than ever before. And you should find out what a knee looks like when you flex your leg like that. Come on.
This might be intentional. That might be intentional.
Oh, mercy. Okay, fine. Okay.
We're going to move on from Tony, who I love Tony's books. I love Tony's passion for comics. Especially if you had seen the other ones where he had the homages to all the individual like obscure 80s indie comics that were just so perfect.
Peerless Losers got it on that last comment in the discussion about his musical homage to.
Totally.
I think that's what's going on with his stuff.
Nice face, Peerless.
We're going to move on to a real interesting. Here's a really interesting comeback story of sorts. Okay, we're going to look at Papa Balloon and Cactus from Outstanding Achievement Presents. This is a guy who goes by the name of James Windsor Smith, and he sent me this letter. It says, "Hi Dan, love the show. Here's my first book featuring a cover by Sam J. Royale, whose books we're going to look at a little bit later." And a 4-page preview of Riley the Teenage Bigfoot by Jeffrey Manley. Enjoy, James Windsor Smith. Now, when I call him
of the Windsor Smiths, of the Woodstock Windsor,
of the Conan Windsor Smiths,
perhaps that's maybe it'll just be it'll sow confusion in the market, and maybe that's okay.
Yes, it'll sow confusion somewhere, indeed.
I thought I was getting Monster, the new Monsters book. What's going on here? Okay, so the interesting comeback story here of Mr. Windsor Smith was he was sort of into comics once upon a time, and he sort of fell out of it. He's watching right now. Hey, James, and he suffered a major stroke, right, and lost the ability to use his drawing hand. Okay. And he used comics to bring himself back, to bring back his dexterity. And it also rekindled and reignited his love of comics.
That is what Jack Abel did.
Who did?
Jack Abel, a famous penciler inker from the good old days. And he had a stroke. To Jim Shooter's credit, let me not damn Jim Shooter constantly. Let me praise Jim Shooter. Jim gave Jack a job on staff as a proofreader. That's what we had available. And he encouraged Jack to draw it whenever he could and would use whatever artwork he could manage to fit in somewhere else. And Jack very, very slowly came back and was actually penciling and inking.
That's amazing. Frank Frazetta too, right? Yeah.
So there. Good for you, buddy. Good for you.
Yeah. Oh, and Tony Rubber Wolf watching, he appreciates the critiques, some of which I find helpful. Others I'll chalk up to differences in taste and aesthetics. It's a good thing I'm not trying to make normal comics. Say love you. That's what I was saying. You're not fitting Tony in your square box, ERB.
Yeah, world. It's the deal is, I think there are certain standards which make sense. And yes, I love doing pages at breakneck speed, but I also slow down to draw the panel borders. That's all. I'm just saying, not much, just a little something.
All right, we appreciate that. We appreciate that, the realness of that. And also, there are rules to comics, and it's okay to break them. And sometimes it makes sense to.
Well, you got to know the rules.
You get more impact out of breaking them when you do it selectively and seldomly, and you use it to specific effect.
Once in a blue moon, you break them, and then they're shocking. Yes.
Okay, so let's look at Papa Balloon and Cactus by James Windsor Smith, and we're going to get to see his growth back to being able to use his hands to draw again, and he claims that now he can draw better than he could draw before because he put so much time into his rehab. And these are goofy strips with goofy characters. There's a giant cactus, right? And a balloon, Papa Balloon. What could be more of an odd couple than a balloon and cactus? We love this. Yeah. And they're goofy stories, very surreal, very sort of flush.
The real stuff is hard to draw.
Yeah, but yet there is.
I'm seeing plenty of acting.
There's a flow to them and continuity to them as well.
Yep. See what's wrong with regular rectangular panel borders right there. Yes, Windsor Smith. Yes.
Okay. All right. Agree. Got some crazy.
Dan, I can't tell. Can you go back one? I can't tell if this is my monitor, but is on the right-hand page there, is that little frog got a tone behind it?
Yes.
Is it a color or is it just gray?
It's dots.
I know, but it's just the black dot, Moray.
Yeah, it's black dots. It's
okay, cool.
Almost like a gradient or something. But, it's hard to show up on the old.
I got to get an MRI. That looks like beige to me.
I need to get the $1 trillion comics cam hooked up. That's on its way someday.
It's being used by the Pentagon right now. You need you need a new monitor, buddy. That's all.
Yeah, maybe some new glasses.
It's also tough. It's tough on the camera with these white pages. We get a little bit of glare. I do my best, but
the point is, I like this black and white. I think if you had colored it like Tony's thing, I think you'd just be stepping on it. No,
nothing wrong with black and white. I'm telling you, nothing wrong.
He really likes black and white stuff. I believe he sent this to Dave Sim and got a response. From it, and it's very consciously black and white, using the dots for the dot tones for grays instead of. Well,
grays. I see a lot of strong graphics. Behind the mouse character rat figure on the left there, big strong panels. No, look. You see, I'm not trying to sound like I want everything to look like Frank Giacoia inked John Buscema. I think there's a range of stuff that is acceptable storytelling, panel to panel continuity, acting within the panel, perspective, relating the characters to each other. I mean, look, that's a good character bit on the upper left hand corner there. Nothing wrong with that.
I agree. And again, I think storytelling, even though the story is not super straightforward, there is progression in panel to panel narrative. I understand what's going on, and the dialogue is very, somewhat symbolic, but there's a story to follow here. And speaking of stories, he outlines his story here about having the stroke and then bringing his way back to comics, rebuilding his skills to where he was better than ever. And then he had another stroke. So
dang, that's some bad luck.
Yeah, so that is going to be continued. But here is also the backup 4-page Riley the Teenage Bigfoot strip, which I found charming. I found it I've seen this guy's work before. I've seen it advertised on the internet, different places. It's real hard. It's a little. I'm going to zoom in just a little more if I can here. He's got an interesting, charming style. It's very reminds me. The thing I would say it reminds me the most of is Boys Club, which is that comic that, if you're familiar with the Pepe the Frog meme,
yeah,
that thing came from Boys Club, which is actually a mini comic done by a friend of a friend of mine back in San Jose. I used to carry that comic before anybody had heard of Pepe. Before this was in 2006 or something, or 7, and then that thing became just this mega right wing meme. And there's a whole documentary all about how it was appropriated by the right wing, and then sort of you had to fight to win it back. Anyway, Riley reminds me a little bit in design work, I'm saying, and also in subject matter a little bit.
Yeah. This 2-page spread is really quite nice. The hardest thing about this 2-page spread is that you're tempted to read straight across the top. And depending on what was actually in I can't quite read the type, so I don't know.
Because of the symmetry of the whole thing, it almost feels like you could read it that way.
Nothing wrong with strong design either. And rectilinear panels. I approve. And nothing wrong with a vanishing panel with a no border. That's nothing that's near.
And when you read it, these are really like single strips. They're almost like daily strips. This is not like a full continuity story here. So there's a lot of, he sort of reuses some of the same images with different dialogue here. He's saying, some people tell me I have a drug problem. That's the way I see it. My only drug problem is that I don't have enough drugs. So we've got a little fabulous furry freak brothers thrown in.
A little bit.
A little more, same image here with a different one. Some people tell me I have a drug problem. That's the way I see it. My only drug problem is if you are a fucking narc. I like that one. I like that one a lot. So this is a preview. You can get Riley the teenage Bigfoot. Here's a pinup by James Windsor Smith, not by Joey Manley.
I couldn't help but I can't help but comment on he's not showing the trucks of the and the wheels of the skateboard. He's just got the skateboard under his arm like a giant peanut. That's not right. Lazy.
On the inside front cover, Dan. I mean inside back. Sorry,
keep going.
The other way.
Oh yeah. Here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's go.
Do we actually put the wheels against our bodies when we run along with our skateboards? No, we don't.
And where is that? Why can't we have a top view and a side view so we can know the exact dimensions of that skateboard? Why do I have to wonder about the angle of the curve on that skateboard? I don't know.
It's obviously not big enough and not made out of the proper materials, but that's besides the point.
Okay, again, good production values on these comics. I continue to be astounded at the production values that are like at the fingertips of anybody who can put together a story and put everything together. On the back here, we have an ad for Dishoom by the Sam J. Royale. Sam J. Royale is the cover artist of this. It says here we should pick up Dishoom. And so wouldn't you know, I would be so surprised. I got Dishoom in the mail, came right after. These guys are marketing in coordination with each other, making it happen. Okay. Oh, and
here's a question. How do you make that happen?
Say it again?
How do you make that happen? So is this all you guys in each other's homes, or how does this stuff get distributed? They mail it to you?
I'm really glad you asked me that, Elliot, because, if you want to see your comics here on the $1 Million Comics Cam, there's one place that you can send them. Send them to the $1 Million Mailbox, P.O. Box 1163, Arcata, California, 95518. And get ready, Elliot, because at the end of the show, I'm going to need you to do a solo, $1 Million Mailbox plug for me. If you're in. Okay. So,
just throw it a little bit.
Mr. Windsor Smith.
Okay.
Sent me stickers too, which are going to go on the sticker on the sticker table here for sure. And Sam also sent me his Sam J. Royale logo stickers. What do you think of this logo, Elliot? Where's your critique here?
You know, I like an honest S. I like an honest M. We have letter shapes that have transcended millennia, and yet when people want to design their own stuff, they really should kind of look at what's been done before and not go off on their own. I clearly see there's twin moons in the sky because that's part of the logo. But that's not, you know, I can read it. That's better, but I still like, you know, I like typography. I'm a lettering guy. I'm a lettering typography guy.
Who's the best letterer in comics? I think I know.
Well,
that's a great question. Like ever?
Yeah,
well,
I think I know. I mean, I got one name. Only one name really comes to mind as all around like the greatest.
You're out of your mind.
Well, the greatest. That's tough.
Right. Like there's like you have to do top.
I know. Well, let's say still working today. How about that?
Oh, because I was going to say Jim Novak, because Novak. There was more to Novak than just lettering. Mike Higgins was pretty damn good. Jack Morelli, he's mastered the digital and still doing the hand work. He's take a look at any Archie comics, and he's still doing wet ink on boards.
So yeah, speaking of Archie, I would have said Ben Yoshida.
Ben Yoshida.
John Workman, definitely. Dave Sim, definitely. Clem Robbins, definitely. Man, the way he does his extenders and without turning the pen, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Actually, Clem is one of the sweetest guys.
To me, it's Todd Klein.
Todd Klein. Starkings with his computer stuff. Like,
yeah, Starkings actually is a titan. He's a titan in the field for sure.
Okay, no, he's not a titan. He's a disruptor.
Right, he's like 5'8",
yeah,
so he's not a titan.
That's what
he was. He unfairly elbowed his way into the business, destroyed it, destroyed the lettering business for poor bastards who couldn't afford a $9,000 computer, and a 19-cent nib and a 50-cent pen holder, and versus a $9,000 computer. Destroyed a nice little cottage industry out there. Now, Richard Starkings, as a letterer, was middle of the road, bottom of the barrel at best. Arguably vastly improved by going digital. So
I actually love. I don't disagree with anything you said except for the first bit that he like elbowed his way into the industry. Like let me tell you.
Does. Okay.
Everybody.
Well, hold on, buddy. I'll hip you. So when Bob Harris was doing X-Men, there was something like 9 titles, 9 spinoffs, or 8 or 10 or something, some huge number. Bob Harris was losing his mind. He needed stuff done overnight. He needed stuff done within an hour. If it was possible, he would have done just that. So what happened was Richard Starkings comes in and says, "Listen, I can do an entire 17-page book overnight. You send me the stuff, I'll send you the pages." So we would send reduced copies of X books. This is 1996, 95, 99, somewhere in there. We were still faxing stuff. That's how long ago this was. Starkings would hand the script and the artwork. No. Oh no, this was even stranger. Just the script to 4 kids, college kids, who would enter the information somewhere, placing it anywhere on the page.
Yeah.
Or bizarre.
It's just data entry at that point. Yeah. Okay.
The artwork, because it was that late. Sometimes they'd put a color in it just for fun. Didn't matter what was going on in the background. They're the guys who had the lettering going beep, 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 with a million connected balloons. Just for fun, because it didn't mean anything. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know why they're doing it. Starkings would take their files, and however many books were being done that way, there may have been 5 or 6 books overnight. He'd take their files, he'd tweak them, whatever that means in those days. They would take the pages, they would break them apart into halves because the proportions were 11 by 17, and they could only scan. They only had a scanner for 8.5 by 11. So they would scan each half of the page. They would call the office. and tell Marvel to plug in the computer and turn it on. Then plug the phone line into the fax machine that was hooked up to the the fax machine that was hooked up to the computer. I'm confusing the story because it was in two phases. There was a fax machine and then there was the computer. They still had to plug them both in because they were afraid of spies, is my guess. They'd get the artwork, they'd get the lettering, they would scotch tape it together, send it to the stat room, have it blown up to a photostat. They would cut it out and stick it down on the artboard whenever the artboard showed up, sometimes on an overlay. Now, why is all this being done? Two reasons. They had so many printers and publishers back in those days because every book was so late. You actually had to dodge one who said, "I don't know. Well, you asked for an overnight separation. We can't do that anymore. We killed people. We can't. We just that's not allowed." They'd go to somebody else and say, "Well, okay, yeah, we can do it overnight. Plus 10 hours, okay." And Bob Harris's back was up against the wall. He had to make progress. This was the time when the bean counters were in charge, and Richard Starking said he could do it. Now, this is the ancient art. Now, okay. Having badmouthed Richard Starkings, he is a good guy. He was honest in his efforts. He worked against terrible odds. He had no information. It's not as though, having the artwork was a total luxury, which came later in this whole digital process, so-called digital process. And so there would be an inevitable aspect to Richard Starkings. But wouldn't it have been nice if we could have had PC versions, maybe Fontographer on a group license or something that everybody could share? We could turn their lettering into digital fonts. Wouldn't that be nice? No, Richard Starkings came in and just bulldozed the whole industry. So yes, he bulldozed his way in.
It sounds like it was a lack of willingness, though, to invest in in-house technology and a willingness to just outsource it to this guy who can do it.
He had a secret partner who invested in him. You don't just cough up $50,000 to buy 4 Macintosh computers and printers. No, it wasn't that simple. It wasn't that simple, Dan. Love it if it were, but it wasn't.
I got to bring you back when we do our next conspiracy theory.
I just want to hear Starkings and Eliot go at it now.
No. I know Richard a little bit. He knows me. I have taken his hand and told him he did a great job. The guy who I got much of this information from, much of this bitterness from, is Jack Morelli. But he has made his peace with Richard Starkings, and if he can make his peace with Richard Starkings, so can I. The business, it's like any other aspect of comics these days. In the last 20 years, you have to go digital. You can do all the fussing.
Yeah, it was inevitable. It was inevitable.
I get a little prickly when somebody goes, he elbowed his way into the industry, because like literally everybody elbows their way into the industry.
Now, I think. No, that's not true. That's not true.
Well,
either.
I did. I just assumed that's how you do it. Get out of my way. Let me show you how to do it. That's all Rich was doing.
You brought something, and so did Starkings. That's the trouble. That's the trouble. It was in your case. The jury's still out. I got to see your stuff. I have to see it again. Really. In Starkings' case, we know what happened.
Okay, Larry, we got to bring Eliot back, and when we review the Astronauts in Trouble retrospective.
I was just thinking, I can't do it.
Nail you.
I can't send you all the stuff we published, because it's like, what a shoe shining thing. Oh, I won all the awards. Oh, that's great, Larry. And then you fucked off because comics is stupid. That's like the worst story ever.
Yeah. You're redeeming yourself. This is your second.
All right, there you go,
Larry. Okay, we're gonna dip into Dishoom.
Yeah,
by CJ. This.
Is that supposed to be a mountain?
Say it again, Ella.
Is that M supposed to be a mountain? Come on.
I don't know what it's.
And there it is.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Is that supposed to be like a play on Barsoom, like it's another planet, that kind of thing? And do you really need to tell that story in the logo? Like, just have it legible, man.
Yeah, it's not clear to me actually why it's called.
Okay, let's not waste too much time on the MasterCard logo that he's incorporated.
Yeah, it's you're showing your age. Is MasterCard even a thing anymore?
I know, isn't that funny? I know.
Yeah.
Diners, you have a Diners Club.
Diners Club.
Okay, so what's interesting? This is just the Sam J. Royale it's a anthology. It's an anthology, right? So it's a bunch of short stories. And I've got 2 issues worth to show, showcasing different styles, different genres, different stuff. This really serves as a great calling card, I think, for Sam. It's got his name clearly on it. It's a really nice package. It's sort of a mini comic size. Let me compare it to a normal size comic so you get what's going on. It's a mini comic size, but it's got all the hand feel of a full size comics, nice stock, stiffer cover stock. And it's a really nice, for a mini comic, it's like next level mini comic, right? Well trimmed, well done. And he tells different stories that sort of have their genre trappings, but they're not just trying to be a genre story. They're more cut from an indie cloth, maybe closer to a Hernandez Brothers, maybe, or a Charles Burns, or a Jim Woodring, even maybe. Showcases great storytelling, again, interesting character concepts, and high quality production values. These differences in styles. He's a very technical guy. He's using bringing a lot of technology to bear in a way that's not super distracting, but that creates a really, fun image.
No, it's distracting. It's there's a lot of strong graphics. I'm interested in why there's color bleed versus black and white floating. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting decisions made. A lot of this is silent, which doesn't help us because we can't read the text, except you, Dan. Look, I love a strong graphic image, series of images, but what I don't see is I can't pick out the story. Maybe it's going by too fast, or I can't see the details.
There is definitely a story to pick out. That is there. The lettering is so small.
That is true.
It's not going to be legible. Here, let me zoom in. I could zoom in a little bit more than this.
Don't confuse the issue by letting us read it. That's no good.
You definitely have to. But here's the thing. Here's a graphic storytelling, a really interesting storytelling choice where we
see that.
Styles and we sort of learn the secret. This is the sort of this spoiler alert, folks.
That's very powerful.
Yeah, when you read it, it cuts right to the center of the story. But almost reminiscent of a certain Punisher Armory issue with the cap gun.
No, thank you. No. That's yeah. I don't make me cry. Now stop it. I see kids always.
And as a storytelling moment, it's similarly powerful. Let me say that, and it's done in a way where this is a page turn reveal, to a key story moment. So that's something that you have to be conscious of, and not everybody is conscious of that. Like the impact that this has on the left side, as opposed to if it were on the right side of the page, is just different as a reveal.
Absolutely. Oh, I hate that. I hate that when people get that wrong. It's hard to get pagination right in advance.
I know a lot of the Marvel guys would know. They would know when the ad break was coming, when it was going to. And on DC, sometimes they'd have those half-page ad breaks too. That's super annoying.
Dark times. Yeah, no, they were for about 7 or 8 years. The Marvel stuff was 17 pages, and which was a nice number of pages. These bastards could actually get their work done on time. And there was one where there were half pages for the national ads, but geez, cut it out, guys. I mean, okay, fine. What are we selling here? The comic book or the ads? Come on, you got to tell the story first. Anyway,
it's bad enough when the ad-facing pages have ads on them and stuff. That really takes me out of the story a lot.
No, that's bad. Now, right there, he's got the unicorn next to the unicorn. That draws me right out of it. I'm dying. And then the lion next to the lion. No. Cut it out. Stop it. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We got a lion versus unicorn story here. Wait a minute. So I'm going to take us into issue.
He's running out.
Can I tell Sam? I like on the back cover. He's got his little icon. that I get what he's doing there.
No,
But
I hate those
I
things.
love, though, on Facebook and other social media, he uses that as his picture. So I can scan through my page really fast and go, here's Sam. What's he saying? Where I don't have to go, oh, who's got Harrison Ford today? Oh, geez, that's my
No.
friend Steve.
Don't be weak just because you have a visual tick here. Don't.
No, it's branding. It's not a tick. It's branding. Now, can you talk about his branding? Sure, it's not that great, but the fact that he's branding is good. It puts him ahead of everybody else at this level.
That's true.
Half the people try to come up with wacky symbols for their names. Come on, just either spell it out or use English language, or
Hey man, plenty of people tried to get the swastika to break big, but it took one guy, one singular vision to really sell that to the people.
Funny story. Mark Gruenwald's apartment, his last big apartment on 96th and Broadway. It was built.
Sorry, go ahead.
There was parquetry all over the floor, marquetry all over the floor, and in the corners were swastikas, which delighted him because they were Indian symbols, of course, before the Nazis came in. Okay, that's it. Little small Nazis.
I see them all the time. Well, that's just at my PTA meetings. Anyway,
there's a lot of strong graphics, a lot of powerful imagery, and there's clearly a lot of thought going into this, except on that red background behind the snake. So he ought to work on that.
Okay.
Because there's red parts in the body, and now the parts of the snake vanish into the background. You're supposed to separate the planes, not merge them.
I can't wait to see where, in a couple of pages, it's going to be, I'm going to need you to just get ready to fire on both barrels, Eliot, in a couple of pages. Okay, because we've got our character, the Hourglass, super assassin. He's got sort of the bag of holding, unlimited sort of space thing that all his tools can come out of, this floating ball that follows him around. He's got his hourglass symbol, and he's got his ray gun, and then
man with a gold gun. Yeah, I see. Yeah, good.
Yes. And so to explain all that, we need a page. Now, this is where we get into Eliot R Brown. We're right in your wheelhouse, Eliot, because Sam himself is like, I tried to go ERB, but I know I could not get there. But what this does is, and I appreciated this because I like little gadget pictures. This is exactly what I was saying. I want to see it from the front. I want to see it from the side. I want to see it open. I want to see those drawings. I want to see exploded technical drawings of this gun. I want to see that knife delineated in perfect scale from multiple angles, ERB style.
You know what? It's not easy being me. It's hard to draw that stuff.
It is.
And if you don't do it enough, you don't have the constant decision making to draw from. My hat's off to him. Hey, he's doing it. He's showing us some details. He's showing us some differences. That gun looks like, okay, it looks like a Larry Lieber special, but that's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
My favorite part, though, the sound-absorbing dress loafers with 40 millimeter heels. Now, that is an ERB detail.
That's a firm touch on the wrong notes, but you know what? It's a firm touch.
That's the sort of thing, like I remembered, man, one of my favorite ERB drawings. I can't pick one, but the one that really impressed me always was Spider-Man's, Peter Parker's camera with the auto mechanism in it. Now, was that like from reality, or was that you adding technology? I know we talked about it, but I kind of forget.
That's okay, buddy. No, I presumed the camera was. I thought somebody had established that the camera was a gift from his Uncle Ben, and so I made it a real camera. It's a Leica R3 with a super wide angle lens, and using police recording film, which is you pick your ASA later when you process it. Those are the good old days.
Yeah.
I mean, I did that for me. Nobody else in the world cared what Leica camera was.
Yeah, that's the detail. the details like about the film. That, of course, that's the kind of film a superhero would have to use, and he develops his own film. Always did. Pre-digital camera. It's a lot easier to be a vigilante superhero now, I think, and slash photographer.
Yes, you can carry a body cam the size of a pinhead. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go straight into Yule Crew. I know you're not gonna like the logos. I happen to like the stylized. I know what that says, so that's all that matters to me.
Why is there a Christmas tree there holding up that upside down M?
Right, because it's the Yule Crew.
Yeah,
it's the Yule Crew, so it's thematic. Come on, give the guy some credit. And I love this. I love the visuals in this. It comes off like a mixed media kind of like this one is very painterly, but this one has like interesting screen effects that it's a little hard to see on cam, but I just like it. I really like the design.
Why put that panel border there? Go back one.
Yeah.
Go back one.
Back.
See, this is the stuff. Go back. Yeah.
Here.
Why do that? What's that supposed to do? Are you standing in front of a window? What are you doing? Is that a sliding door? Why would you?
I would say 2 moments in time, but like the dialogue kind of already conveys the passage of time in that way.
It's a little too cutesy poo. I don't like stuff like that very much. Sorry, Sam. It's just
Okay, maybe this is sometimes. So do you think? I think sometimes modern people get into thumbnailing and they sort of pick a frame almost before they've necessarily done all the picking. Although I do like this technique. When there's an element of time change between them or something that makes it
hard to do.
Necessary to have several. It is hard to do.
Yeah. He didn't do it.
And Sam is watching too, by the way.
Yeah, can I use Elliot's heavy sigh as a poll card? That's awesome.
Definitely has an Adventure Time feel to it, for sure. In a great way.
My favorite thing Elliot said so far is a firm touch on the wrong notes. That is some poetry criticism. That's awesome.
Beautiful. I don't know. I'm liking this. I really like the one of the things. Did you watch, Elliot? Did you see Into the Spider-Verse?
Oh yeah, terrific.
Yeah, terrific, right?
Most of the characters. That's fine. It was great. That was great fun.
But like it went right back to your heyday with all the Bill Sienkiewicz kind of references. That must have really been.
I loved all the effort that went into that. That must have been. That's the labors of love you hear so much about. That was a very strong scripting too. I love the Japanese. Yeah, Spider Kid, whatever the robot was. I mean, that was the great stuff. The most obscure.
It might be the best Spider-Man movie ever made. I don't know. It's up there.
To agree. Yeah, it was. The first movie was pretty good, but it fell on its face a few times. Yeah.
So our character here pisses lightning. Just to
pisses
get that
lightning. I was wondering if that's what I was seeing. Okay. Yes.
That is what you're seeing, and it feels good.
That's a Yule Crew thing.
I see. Great. That's great. Okay.
And I just love this. This just took me into the Spider-Verse because it's got a mixed media look where there's some 2D elements and a little bit of 3D rendering on things.
Sorry, you're reaching. No.
Okay.
Kirby Crackle. I like the the pose. Sure.
The painterly crackle is nice. I really enjoyed that one a lot.
I don't necessarily.
Now here's one.
Okay. See how I use.
Here's one that this one has one of a really cool kind of fantasy story trope idea that I haven't heard before, but I really like. Okay, so there's an ageless warrior, this guy Casper Cole, and he's got this magical weapon that as the ages progress, the weapon changes to become a weapon of the period, to become like the ultimate. So like in the medieval age, it's a sword, right? And then through the ages, it becomes a better type of sword. And then it becomes like a musket. And then it's like a machine gun, a better type. But then we get to the modern age, and it's transformed into a pen. And Casper Cole is the CEO now in the future, and that is how he wields his power. So I just think that conceptually is a great idea that I haven't seen before or heard before. It's almost an Eternal Warrior, ish concept, but like with a twist that I love.
What's next? Back to a stick?
Maybe, yeah. With the way our society's going right now, that might be the next stage. It just becomes a rock.
You heard me. Yeah, exactly. You heard me. Yeah. So I see the Thing. I see Carrot Top. I see.
So in Helga Hale's Diamonds and Disappointment, we've got another. It's sort of a superhero-ish.
Something happened. He broke down and used a font.
He used a readable font.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just thank you. Did he break down and do his own lettering on the Casper Cole business, or was that from? Because I'm an old calligrapher from way back. Yeah, there.
To me, it looks like a font. It's a font to me, or he's
maybe.
Come
on, who did this?
So this is still by Sam J. Royale. It's all Sam J. Royale. And
he's out there. I'm asking, did he do his own calligraphy?
He did everything in this book, typography.
Chisel point, speedball, and he do his own lettering for the Casper business.
Probably not.
Half the stuff is his own stuff, and it's not very strong. But he's got a very good hand if that's his lettering. If that's his Casper Cole,
Here you mean.
That's hard to do because I know because I can't do it anymore. I'm getting a little twitchy.
Title lettering is all custom, Eliot. It's all custom.
By hand, Sam, is the question.
He didn't say that. Does it matter?
Oh, no, it matters to me.
Oh, by the way, Zinc, I got your book. I was going to do it. It was so strapped for time. We're already at an hour and a half. Your book is amazing, dude. Your new book is fantastic, and we will be looking at it next week.
Next time, yeah.
Yeah, and also Sam Tassonis will be looking at your book too. So that's gonna be awesome. Can't wait for that. And guys, I need more sentiment.
Zinc boy, yeah.
Okay, so this is it's sort of a typical sort of superheroine-ish story.
Well, there's your multi-view of a solid object. Okay.
I thought you might like this. This is sort of like they keep a bulletin board of his clippings. And this is something that I see them often try to do in comics these days. Like DC was doing this a lot recently and doing a very poor job of it. Like it didn't look really there in the scene. I thought Sam did a pretty good job here of making this look like this looks like a bulletin board with these things on it. And these look like real articles from afar.
Where's the push pins? Where's the thumbtacks? Where's the yarn for the murder board?
Good question. Maybe we'll see. Maybe, let me see. Yeah, get on it, Sam. That's all I'm going to say.
Reality, Sam. Not very nice.
Okay. Again, some interesting choices on panel breakdowns.
Yeah. Multi-panels for one when there should be one. Sorry. Don't need to see it. Okay. Good shot.
Now we
can. I appreciate that. Something we don't usually see.
This is like, I don't know, I want to call this like Jim Starlin pages. Whenever you get into these real long, I don't know who else, who does that. Who does.
So this is all very strong. This is good.
Okay, telling this cosmic. So this is the robot telling a sort of a fairy tale story that he's told before that's open to different interpretations and applies to the story. And it's a nice slice of life. But then using
toughest stuff in the world to do. Talking heads, right there. This is done well. This is done well. This is very strong. I like it a lot. I don't know what's being said, but I don't need to see anything.
All right.
Minimal backgrounds, not bad. Okay.
And so here's another close up at that look. And then here's more like an ad that looks straight out of like, this is an ad I might see in a comic book. It just feels laid out like a professionally laid out ad to me. Making Sam look like a big deal over here. Go to Sam J Royale, go to Etsy, check out Sam's stuff. Coming next into Shum issue 3, armed with the sword of Shadra and clad in the skins of his first kill, Moondog will return in Tower of the Wolf Mother. Now, this and the other lettering, both of these remind me of what? Paperback books from the 1960s.
Rosetta covers, yeah.
Don't you think? A great look to emulate. This other one too really had that look. I'm going to say story-wise, the one that really got me that I loved is I love the high concept of Casper Cole. That's the one that is the most interesting to me. But as a package, if I were saying like, hey, I'm Sam and I want to work in comics, look at these. This shows what I can do. This shows a guy who can do a lot. Maybe he's a jack of all trades, a bit of a jack of all trades. But I think that's in this day and age, that's what an artist has to be. That's almost the first thing an artist has to be now is has to be able to do everything. Don't you think?
An artist always has to do everything. That's one of my favorite post-mortem realizations. When Dave Sim died, they revealed an interview aspect of him when he went to an open art call somewhere over at Image Comics, and they told him to draw a brick building, and he just fell on his face. He couldn't do it. And this is a pretty heavy duty guy in the industry later on. He just couldn't do it. Fascinating, because yes, brick buildings are a nightmare. Bricks, windows, fenestration. But yeah, you have to draw everything from fashion to close-ups of nostrils to universes to the moon, back to a car. You have to draw it all. And you have to draw it recognizably. And here's the thing that harkens back to what I said earlier. You got to do it quickly to make some money. That's where I fall flat on my face. I can't.
But now, for the first time, it's feasible, and I'm going to argue necessary, that the artist also learn all the pre and post-production stuff, all the pre-press. And all
I told all of the kids sending in stuff, don't look at comics for your art training. Go take a life model class. Go look at movies. Get a photo book of a movie or something and study it, because my rap to people who come up, hey, I want to start doing a comic book. What do you got? I said, listen, we've all grown up. We've watched storytelling every day. We've watched things happen. We've watched television shows. Every ad tells a story. We've been inundated with all of the mechanics. Now you as opposed to being a receiver, now you have to analyze. You have to slow down and remember, and that's the difference. You can do it. You can also not do it. Now, what's interesting about Sam here in these two books is that he zooms in and out of both. He shows us that he can act, he can tell a story, he can do the strong graphic sense. Is it overwhelming graphic? That's the only thing that'll maybe prevent him from getting into a mainstream house. But this stuff right here, now I wasn't able to read the stories. There's sometimes, the last weapon is a pen. The last weapon shown is a pen. Fine, strong idea. We didn't see him use it. You stopped. Now I want to see him use it. It's one thing to cut a guy's head off with a sword, shoot him with an M1. Now I want to see him use that pen.
What did you do with that pen?
It was a Diplomat. It was a Mont Blanc Diplomat pen. So he's, okay.
Wouldn't it be great if he just stabbed someone in the eye with it? If that.
No, I would. You're bloodthirsty bastard. No. It's the information age. That's what's it's the ability to use words against people strictly from words' point of view. No violence. Others may handle the violence, not him. Doesn't need to. Yes, it's interesting, but now I want to see the idea developed. So
Larry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was gonna say, I get what you're saying about the digital prepress and everything, that because the bar to doing a professionally looking comic, produced looking comic is so low now, if you have the prepress tools, that you have to be good at it. I mean, I was just a writer, and then I became a publisher, and then to save money, I did all the graphic design, I did all the prepress, to the point where I'm just the guy who likes astronauts, and I've lettered 2,500 pages of comics. That doesn't make, like, why is that, right? I mean, anyway, so it's a cool thing, Sam, to understand like your graphic design stuff, and man, you got to change that logo and tell me what Dishoom is. It's too hard to say, and I
well, if there was a payoff, maybe.
Dishoom.
Yeah.
But he's doing storytelling with his logo. There's the two planets or suns, and there's the mountains, and then there's a line in the D for some reason. Something's going on there, but like what? Tell me what that is. Dan flipped through the whole thing, and it just didn't come across.
Okay, Sam.
Storytelling.
The one thing I know about these guys, they take this to heart, and this is the kind of criticism that they need, because they understand, they can hear the truth. We're not
shitting on your stuff.
Yeah, we're not in any way. In any way. And believe me, we can go back. I'll go back and look at the first 5 years of Frank Miller's work, and I'll pick it apart for mistakes. There's mistakes, dude. In anybody's career, there's a growth curve. I'll look at the first issue of Mage, and then I compare it to the last issue of Mage, and we see a guy, Matt Wagner, who was working it out, who obviously got feedback, took the feedback, absorbed it, and made his work better. So if you're doing that, you're ahead of the game as an artist and as a person, I think, in my opinion. Eliot, this has been a long show, and I really appreciate it. Do you have anything
a little dry?
Yeah. Do you have anything in particular you want to hype or promote or drive the people to go take a look at?
Oh, not the usual. My blog. I just put up something. I shame on me. I had a great run, and then I fell flat. I was awful. And I just put up. I did a thing on Daryl Hickman, Dwayne Hickman, and then a thing on my open letter to Clark Gregg, which I put up. It's linked on my Facebook page. EliotRBrown.com, 1 L, 1 T, all one word. And it's a self-confessional. It's a laugh riot, if I do say so myself, and it's heartfelt. Okay. I meant to say a lot. Instead, I babbled like a fucking idiot. I mean, I'm so sorry. Did I?
One of us. One of us.
Eliot.
This was fun. I want to see your stuff. I want to see more of your stuff, Larry. Dan, I hope you can hook me up. And
I need one more thing out of you before I let you go, Eliot. I need one more thing from you, please, if you would. Would you tell? Here's what we want to do. I want to just a brief message at how Eliot Brown would pitch this show, the $1 Million Mailbox. That's what we're called, the Dan Shaheen's $1 Million Mailbox.
Okay.
And where they can send their comics, for heaven's sake. Why don't you give it a shot right now?
Curious about where you fit in the universe? Worried about your future endeavors? Send all your work to $1 Million Mailbox, run by Dan Shaheen's $1 Million Mailbox, P.O. Box 1163, Arcata, California 95518. That address again, P.O. Box 1163, Arcata, California 95518, USA. Send your stuff to be criticized fairly and fairly criticized.
Thank you, Eliot. Fantastic. That was Shatner-esque in its
what a pro.
One take. Fantastic.
I didn't catch that first Dan Shaheen in there, so shame on me. But you can edit that out.
It's fine. Zinc Comics says all is forgiven for not choosing my Marvel tryouts.
Oh, you know what? No, wait a minute, Zinc. Listen, I didn't do the choosing. I put a pile of stuff in front of Jim Shooter. There was a lot of very worthy stuff. Jim picked every wrong talent for each category. I remember Doug Braithwaite was chosen for lettering. What the hell is wrong with this world.
Huh.
Wow.
That's
What happened?
Now, if I recall correctly, Mark Bagley, that's how he got started. That's
That
the
is
lore. Right?
he was picked for the wrong function too. Bagley was a good penciler, but he was chosen to ink or something. It was one of those bad combinations that he was not ready for. But they used him anyway, and luckily his talent won out, which is fine.
And is that one? Did that submission flow through you, and you passed it on and gave the recommendation?
Did. Yeah.
Okay, so Eliot R. Brown, even more powerful than I knew. Even more powerful.
Yes, and you haven't even smelled my odor yet. That's
Well, I want to thank you and Larry today for coming in here. I got to play our closing credits and get us out of here.
Fun. Thank you, Larry. Nice to know you better.
It was wonderful talking to you, and thanks for dropping the science, Elliot. Oh my God, this was
totally, dude. Yeah, I love that. That was so great. We'll be back. When are we going to be back? We'll be back. Next Tuesday at 3 p.m. I'll be back with Larry. We'll be doing serious Star Trek. Elliot, are you a Star Trek or science fiction fan?
I saw part of that, and I had to go, so I'm sorry about that. I wanted to chime in. That's the trouble with dropping in and seeing something in the middle, and then okay, ding, ding, ding.
Totally.
We ended up talking about politics yesterday. That was something.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Well, you've got an open door here, my friend.
Thank you.
Anytime you want, or if you just want to come in, I would love to bring you back to do exactly what you did today again soon.
Crush the dreams of the youth.
I've got a boot for their throat right here.
Okay, Larry, what do you think? We got to bring them back soon, right?
Oh, holy shit, man! Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Okay,
Listen,
we will do that.
I was so disheartened when Shooter read me the riot act about what I couldn't do that it really made me very upset at the time. We asked for help. We asked for the thing that everybody wanted to send us, and then we ignored it.
That's hilarious.
It was very unfortunate. So this is not exactly redemptive, but one or two creators at a time. You bet. Sure.
Okay. Well, thanks. I'm going to play our closing credits, and we've got a little post-credits cameo like any good comic book media these days. We want to keep you watching to see who all the gaffers are and whatever. So, so stick around. Come back next week. I don't know who my comic book guest is going to be next week yet. But I've got another $1 million mailbox lined up. I got thumbnails for days. We're ready to do this thing. Got some more comics, but we need more of your comics. So listen to ERB and send your comics in, and we will see all of you folks next time.
Saw that you can make a living out of Thursday. You'll hear no complaints anymore.
And you created X-Force?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the drawing of?
This is the Spike Man.
And what's this right here?
This is the camera on top of your head that will record the wrongdoings of others.
So Rob, have you had any formal art training?
No, just a lot of imagination, I think. Wait so I say it and then look down, or just open it and say it.
Fly button?